Rob Will thought he had already won the war. He believed the 10-Petal Ranch was too powerful to destroy, and everyone who stood against him would eventually be forced to surrender. But now, everything is changing. The secrets he tried to bury are finally coming to light, and the people he underestimated are preparing their final move. In the season finale of Dutton Ranch Episode 9, one question could decide everything. Will Rob Will lose everything and end up in prison, or will he make one last dangerous move to escape his downfall? After the shocking events of Episode 8, the battle between Beth, Rip, and the 10-Petal Ranch has reached a point where there is no turning back. The truth about the stolen cattle, the hidden crimes, and the betrayal that caused so much damage is finally coming together. But exposing the truth is only the beginning, because taking down someone like Rob Will requires more than evidence. It requires a plan, patience, and the courage to face the consequences. The biggest change heading into Episode 9 is that Rob Will is no longer fighting people who are confused or powerless. For the first time, Beth and Rip understand exactly what they are dealing with. They are no longer trying to figure out who is responsible for the destruction around them. They now know the 10-Petal Ranch has been playing a much bigger game than anyone realized. For weeks, Rob Will has controlled the situation because he always stayed one step ahead. He used fear, money, and influence to make sure nobody could challenge him. Every time someone got close to the truth, he found a way to push them back. But the problem with secrets is that they eventually come out, and now those secrets are becoming the biggest threat to his future. The information Austin revealed could completely change the balance of power. When he decided to tell Beth and Rip what was really happening behind the 10-Petal Ranch, he knew he was putting himself in danger. Rob Will does not forgive betrayal, especially from someone who knows too much. But Austin's choice showed something important. People are no longer willing to protect Rob Will's lies. The discovery that the 10-Petal Ranch was connected to illegal cattle operations gives Beth and Rip something they have been searching for from the beginning: a way to fight back. Before this moment, they were only reacting to attacks. Now, they finally have the chance to take control. And this is where Beth becomes more dangerous than ever. Beth has always been someone who understands how powerful people think. She knows that attacking Rob Will emotionally will not be enough. He has survived because he knows how to manipulate people and escape consequences. So Beth will likely focus on destroying the foundation that gives him power. She knows that Rob Will's biggest weakness is not his enemies. His biggest weakness is his confidence. Rob Will truly believes nobody can touch him. That belief could become the mistake that ends everything. Meanwhile, Rip understands that this fight is not just about business anymore. For him, the 10-Petal Ranch represents a threat to everything he protects. The ranch, the people he loves, and the future they are trying to build are all at risk. Rip has always been patient, but when someone crosses a certain line, he does not hesitate. The finale could show a side of Rip that Rob Will has never experienced before. However, there is still one major problem standing in their way. They need proof strong enough to bring him down. Walken's decision to take the gun connected to Wes's murder to Sheriff Wade was a huge step, but it was not enough. Without a body or stronger evidence, Rob Will still has room to escape. He can continue denying everything and use the legal system to protect himself. But Walken knows there is another way. The missing piece could be finding Wes's body and finally revealing what happened. If that happens, Rob Will's entire defense could collapse. The man who believed he was untouchable could suddenly find himself facing serious consequences. This is why Episode 9 could become the most dangerous episode for Rob Will. The walls are closing in, and every person he tried to control is now becoming part of the reason for his downfall. But Rob Will is not the type of person who simply accepts defeat. The question is, what will he do when he realizes that Beth, Rip, and Walken are no longer afraid of him? Will he try to destroy them before they expose him? Will he turn against his own people to save himself? Or will the evidence finally be enough to send him behind bars? The season finale is setting up a final battle where every character has something to lose. And for Rob Will, the fight is no longer about controlling the 10-Petal Ranch. It is about survival. As the season finale approaches, the biggest question is not whether Beth and Rip know the truth about Rob Will. They do. The real question is what they are willing to do with that information. Because taking down someone like Rob Will is not simple. He has spent years building protection around himself, and anyone who challenges him has to be prepared for what happens next. Beth understands this better than anyone. She knows that Rob Will is dangerous because he does not fight fair. He does not wait for problems to come to him. He creates problems for other people first. That is why Beth cannot simply walk into the 10-petal ranch and accuse him. She knows he would find a way to turn the situation around and make himself look like the victim. Instead, Beth will likely use the one thing Rob Will cannot control: the truth. For a long time, Rob Will has survived because people were afraid to speak. Everyone knew something was wrong, but nobody had enough courage or information to challenge him. Now, that has changed. The people who were once silent are finally beginning to understand that staying quiet only helps Rob Will continue his power. And Beth knows exactly how to use that. The moment she learned about the stolen cattle and the connection to the problems hurting their ranch, everything changed. Before, she and Rip were trying to defend themselves from an enemy they could not fully understand. Now they have a clear target. But Beth also knows that exposing Rob Will could put everyone around her in danger. This is where the relationship between Beth and Rip becomes even more important. They have always been strongest when they work together. Beth brings the strategy and intelligence, while Rip brings the loyalty and strength needed to finish what they start. Neither one of them is willing to let Rob Will destroy everything they have built. However, the biggest challenge may come from inside their own circle. Bula is still in a difficult position. She knows Rob Will is dangerous, but she also has her own reasons for protecting the ranch. After everything she has been through, including her health problems and her desire for a peaceful future with Everett, she may not want another war. But Beth and Rip now know that allowing Rob Will to continue operating could cost them everything. This creates a complicated situation because Bula may feel trapped between two sides. On one side, she has the history and connection to the 10-petal ranch. On the other side, she has people who are trying to protect her from a threat she may not fully understand. The finale could put Bula in a position where she has to finally choose. Does she continue protecting the ranch at any cost? Or does she accept that Rob Will has gone too far? Another major piece of this story is Everett. After returning to Bula's life, Everett represents something completely different from the violence and betrayal surrounding the ranch war. He represents a chance for a normal life. But the problem is that there may be no normal life while Rob Will remains powerful. If Rob Will feels cornered, he could target anyone close to his enemies. And that means Bula, Everett, Beth, and Rip could all become part of his final desperate move. This is why the finale could become much more personal. Rob Will may realize that he cannot defeat Beth and Rip by fighting them directly. Instead, he may try to attack their weaknesses. He knows everyone has something they care about, and he may try to use those connections against them. But what Rob Will may not understand is that Beth and Rip have already survived worse situations. They have faced loss, betrayal, and impossible choices before. Fear is not something that controls them anymore. Meanwhile, Walken's role could become the key to everything. His decision to search for justice shows that he is no longer willing to accept what happened to Wes. He knows that if he can find the missing evidence, the entire structure protecting Rob Will could collapse. The problem is that time is running out. Rob Will is not going to sit quietly while his enemies gather information. The more pressure he feels, the more dangerous his decisions could become. And this is where the season finale could deliver its biggest surprise. Rob Will might realize that prison is becoming a real possibility. If that happens, he could make a move that changes the entire fight. Instead of defending himself, he could go on the attack. He may try to destroy evidence. He may try to turn people against each other. Or he may reveal secrets about Beth and Rip that could create a completely different battle. Because Rob Will understands one thing: everyone has secrets. The difference is that Beth and Rip are prepared for a fight, while Rob Will is fighting to protect everything he has built. The finale is not just about who wins the ranch war, it is about who controls the story when the truth finally comes out. And with every secret getting closer to being exposed, Rob Will's biggest enemy may not be Beth or Rip. It may be the truth itself. The closer everyone gets to the truth, the more dangerous Rob Will becomes. A person like him does not simply accept losing power. For most of his life, he has built an image of being untouchable. He has convinced people that money, influence, and fear can protect him from any consequences. But now, for the first time, that protection is starting to disappear. And when someone like Rob Will realizes that everything is falling apart, the most dangerous moment is not when he is winning. It is when he knows he is losing. Rob Will has always depended on controlling the situation. He controls the information, he controls the people around him, and he controls the fear that keeps others silent. But Beth and Rip have changed the game because they are no longer reacting to his moves. They are preparing their own. The biggest mistake Rob Will made was believing that Beth and Rip were only trying to protect their ranch. He underestimated how far they would go when someone threatened their home and the people they care about. He thought he could pressure them into backing down, but instead, every attack pushed them closer to fighting back. And now, that fight could reach its final stage. One of the biggest questions heading into the finale is whether Rob Will try to escape legally or whether he will take a much more dangerous path. Someone like him has probably prepared for situations like this. He may already have people ready to protect him, information he can use as a weapon, or a backup plan that nobody knows about. But the problem with backup plans is that they only work when the enemy does not see them coming. Beth has always been good at finding weaknesses. She understands that powerful people often become careless because they believe they cannot be defeated. Rob Will's confidence may have protected him for years, but it could also be the reason he finally falls. Because every time he pushed someone down, he created another person who wanted revenge. Walken is one of those people. For him, this is no longer just about the ranch conflict. It is about justice for Wes and making sure Rob Will cannot continue hurting people without consequences. His decision to involve Sheriff Wade shows that he is trying to bring the fight into the open. But Walken also understands that the law moves slowly, and Rob Will knows how to use that. Without undeniable evidence, Rob Will can still create doubt. He can still convince people that he is being targeted. He can still claim that his enemies are trying to destroy him because of a personal conflict. That is why finding Wes's body could become the moment that changes everything. If Rip and Walken are able to uncover the missing evidence, Rob Will may lose the one thing that has protected him this entire time: the ability to deny everything. The moment the truth becomes official, his power could disappear overnight. But before that happens, there is a possibility that Rob Will makes one final attempt to turn the situation around. He could go after the people closest to Beth and Rip. He could use Bula's complicated position against them. He could reveal old secrets. And he could try to create a situation where everyone starts questioning each other. Because Rob Will knows that the strongest enemy is not always the person with the most power. Sometimes the strongest enemy is a group of people who trust each other. Breaking that trust would be his best chance. However, Beth and Rip have something Rob Will does not understand. They have loyalty. The people around Rob Will stay because they fear what happens if they leave. The people around Beth and Rip stay because they believe in them. That difference could decide the final battle. Meanwhile, Bula's choice could become one of the most emotional parts of the finale. For years, she has carried the responsibility of protecting the 10-petal ranch. She has made difficult decisions because she believed they were necessary for survival. But now she has to face the possibility that protecting the wrong person could destroy everything she worked for. Her connection with Everett may also force her to look at her life differently. After surviving her health crisis, Bula has a chance to choose a different future. But that future cannot exist if she remains connected to Rob Will's dangerous decisions. The finale could show Bula finally understanding that loyalty does not mean protecting someone who is destroying everything around them. And that realization could become another major blow against Rob Will. At the same time, Carter's story could also play an important role. His struggles throughout the season have shown that he is still trying to find his place. He has been hurt, confused, and frustrated, but the finale may be the moment where he finally starts growing up. Being around people like Beth and Rip means facing hard truths. They do not survive because life is easy. They survive because they keep going when everything becomes difficult. Carter may finally understand that lesson. The season finale is building toward a moment where every character has to decide who they really are. Rob Will has chosen power. Beth has chosen loyalty. Rip has chosen protection. Walken has chosen justice. And Bula must decide whether she chooses the past or the future. The final battle is coming, and there may only be one chance to bring Rob Will down. Because once he realizes the walls are closing in, he will not wait for someone else to make the first move. He will make his own. And that move could change everything. Everything has been building toward this moment. For an entire season, the battle between Dutton Ranch and the 10-Petal Ranch has been growing bigger, more personal, and more dangerous. Every secret, every betrayal, and every hidden decision has pushed the characters closer to a final confrontation. And now, Rob Will may finally face the one thing he has spent years avoiding: consequences. The biggest danger for Rob Will is that he no longer knows who he can trust. The people who once protected him are beginning to question him. The people who stayed silent are beginning to speak. And the enemies he thought he had defeated are now standing together. This is exactly the kind of situation Rob Will has always feared. Because his power was never just about the ranch. His power came from controlling people. But control disappears when people stop being afraid. Beth understands that. She knows that destroying Rob Will is not just about proving one crime. It is about removing the fear that allowed him to operate for so long. She wants everyone to see him for who he really is. And that is why the evidence against him becomes so important. If Walken can finally connect the missing pieces, especially the truth surrounding Wes's death, Rob Will could find himself trapped. The same system he believed he could manipulate could become the thing that brings him down. For someone like Rob Will, prison is not just a punishment. It is the complete loss of control. He would lose his reputation, his influence, and the ability to make people obey him. That is why the possibility of prison could push him into making his most desperate decision yet. Instead of trying to survive quietly, Rob Will may decide to fight back with everything he has. And this could create the most intense conflict of the entire season, because Beth and Rip know that a cornered enemy is often the most dangerous enemy. They cannot assume Rob will surrender. They cannot assume he will make a mistake. They have to be prepared for him to do whatever it takes to protect himself. This is where Rip's role becomes extremely important. Rip has always understood people like Rob Will. He knows that some battles cannot be solved through conversations or negotiations. When someone threatens his family and his home, Rip becomes someone who refuses to back down. But the finale may also challenge Rip in a different way. For years, Rip has handled problems through force and loyalty. But this time, the fight requires strategy. They need justice, not just revenge. They need Rob Will exposed in a way that cannot be ignored. And Beth knows this. She understands that the biggest victory is not simply defeating Rob Will. The biggest victory is making sure he can never return to power. That is why their plan must be careful. One mistake could give Rob Will the opportunity he needs. Meanwhile, Bula could become the unexpected person who changes the entire outcome. For a long time, everyone has wondered where Bula's true loyalty stands. She has history with the 10-Petal Ranch, but she has also seen the damage caused by Rob Will's actions. The more she learns, the harder it becomes for her to continue defending him. Her decision could become the final piece that destroys Rob Will's defense. Imagine the moment when someone who once stood close to the 10-Petal Ranch finally decides to tell the truth. That kind of betrayal would hurt Rob Will more than any attack from Beth or Rip, because it would prove that even the people closest to him no longer believe in him. And Rob Will would have no one left to blame except himself. But the finale may not be simple. A person like Rob Will rarely goes down without causing damage. Even if he knows he is losing, he could still try to create chaos. He could attempt to turn Beth and Rip against each other. He could expose secrets from their past. He could try to make everyone question whether they are truly different from him. Because Rob Will's greatest weapon has always been manipulation. He does not just attack people's bodies, he attacks their weaknesses.